Hi guys, sorry I couldn't be here with you today. I'm down in San Antonio with my academic decathlon team, and we're at the state competition. So what we're going to be doing today though is factoring trinomials. So what we're trying to do is factor or undistribute trinomials. So we were used to seeing something that, was like x plus 2 times x plus 3, and we got some sort of trinomial answer, whether we were using the box or we were double distributing. Now we're going to go backwards from what we were doing, and we're going to figure out how do I get the parenthesis terms and not just the trinomial in the end. So the big thing of the day is if we can use this box correctly, then hopefully this will be super simple and straightforward. So the first thing they're going to do for you is they're going to give you algebra tiles. Remember with the tiles that the big square means x squared, the little box means x, and then this one, the little tiny square, it means a 1. And when you color it in, it turns it into a negative. So maybe I'll make these little arrows. So right here, this is 1x squared, this is 2x's, 3x's, and then 6 little 1's. So we're going to use these tiles in order to fill in the box that we have right here. They've already been nice and they filled in the x squared for me and the 6. And now I have 2x's, positive 2x's, and positive 3x's. Okay, so kind of what we were doing before, we can look for the GCF within each of these rows and columns, and that'll kind of help you out for figuring out what your factors are. The other thing you can do is look up here. There's 1x, and then there's 2 little x's, so that would be plus 2. And if you notice, the greatest common factor between 2x and 6 is 2. Okay, same deal over here on the left. There's 1x and 3 1's. So 1x plus 3, you notice the GCF between x and 2x is x. The GCF between 3x and 6 is 3. Okay, so now when I write my polynomial out, I can just combine all my like terms here. So there was 1x squared, there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 x's, and there were 6 1's. And when I look at my factors, I'm just going to pull the sides of my box. So x plus 2 and x plus 3. And it doesn't matter which order you put them in, it'll still get you the same thing. Okay, same deal on 2. When you look at this, you can fill in your box to figure out what your factors are, or you can look at this picture. And one of the things that helps me is sometimes to cut the box up inside. So right here, again, there's one big X, and then there's minus 6. So there's 6 colored in ones, which means that these is a negative 6. Okay, these are 2 X's right here, positive 2 X's. And then we have minus 3 X's right here because they're long, and then they're colored in, so that means they're negative. And you can, again, use your box to do your GCF thing, or you can look at the sides. There's 1x here, and there's plus 2. Okay? There's 1x here, and then there's minus 3. Be careful there. So one of the things you notice, if they both have a negative, you take out the negative. So when I write my polynomial out, I have 1x squared, 2x's plus negative 3x's. Be careful here. Plus negative 3x. Gives you a minus x. Remember, we can combine the like terms right here. And then minus 6. And then my factors are the things on the sides. So x plus 2 and x minus 3. Okay, go ahead and try number 3 and 4. Pause this video. Go ahead and try number 3 and 4 on your own. Alright, here what your final answer should be on both of these. Remember, use your map key when you're trying to count out how much your polynomial is. And again, think about what you needed to draw up here in order to make these big factors. We're filling in that area with these little guys. So then you can use that to figure out your factors. Okay, talk with your neighbor if you need a little bit extra help on this. So now we're going to move on a little bit and talk about standard form of a quadratic. Remember, a quadratic is just that U-shaped thing or something with a squared in it. So standard form is ax squared plus bx plus c. A, b, and c are numbers, so if you need to write that down, please do. They're just numbers. So when they ask you what's the A value, what's the B value, what's the C value, there's no X's attached to those. They're just the numbers in front of all those letters. So if I look at number 5 and I wanted to name my A value, I go look in front of the squared term. If there's nothing there, remember there's a ninja 1, so A equals 1. Do the same thing for B. I go and I look in front of the X term, the not squared term, and I get a 9. And then my C is what's just being added at the end, so that's a positive 18. Okay, same deal on 6. I go and I look and I say A, the number in front of X squared, is 3. The number in front of this X, the not squared X, is going to be a ninja 1, but remember it's a negative, so put that negative sign. And then C is the number that's at the end, so negative 2. Again, when you look there, just look for the number in front of the letter. On 7, though, when you look at this guy, you have that A is the number in front of the squared term. So we have 4. But then we look for B, which is the number in front of the X term, and there is no X term. So if there is no X term, remember, I could have just had a plus 0X. If it's not there, then it's a 0. So B right here is 0. And then C would be negative 9. Go ahead and try number 8 real quick. Okay, your A was 1. Remember ninja 1. Your B wasn't there, so it's a 0. And your C, be careful here, is negative 64. This is going to help us when we learn how to factor a trinomial in a moment. Alrighty, so on 9 and 10, they're asking you to factor these expressions completely. Again, what that means is you need to figure out what your two terms that multiply to give you that. So you're going to have an answer that has parentheses and probably an X or whatever letter you're dealing with, and then some numbers. So in order to do this, the first thing you're going to do is name your A's, your B's, and your C's. So my A, right here, the number in front of X squared is 2. My B, the number in front of the not squared term, is 7. And then my C value is 3. Okay, when I use that, I'm then going to draw a T. We're going to use what we call the T box here. So I'm going to draw my T. And what I'm going to put in the top of my T is A times C. So the AC, your air conditioning, is up at the top of your house. So we have the A is 2, the C is 3, that's 6. So what we're looking for in my T chart is I'm going to be listing out my factors of 6, kind of what we were doing the other day. So we're going to have 1 and 6, 2 and 3, 3 and 2. Okay, so now I'm done with this. But what I need these factors to do, I need them to be special here, and I need them to add to B, which is 7. So we want AC in the top. We're using all 3 of our letters, and we want to see, can I find some of these factors that add up to be the middle term? So 2 plus 3 is 5. That's not what I want. 1 plus 6 is 7. That is what I want. So these are the 2 that I'm going to use. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and draw my box over to the side. Okay, we're backwards factoring. You're always going to put your squared term up in this top left box. So 2x squared, that's going to be stuck there. You're always going to put your number down here in the bottom right box. And then you're going to go ahead and put an x and an x. We know that we have to split that middle term somehow. And we just split the middle term. My middle term is now split into 1 and 6. So I'm going to put a 1 in front of one of the x's, positive 1, and a positive 6 in front of the other x. Okay, so if you notice along that diagonal, it still adds up to 7x. I still have the same expression here, but I filled it in, so now I can find the GCF of the sides. Okay, so if I go and I look, what's the GCF between 2x squared and x? That's just 1x. The GCF, or the greatest common factor, between 6x and 3, that's 3. Greatest common factor between 2x squared and 6x, that's 2x. And finally, GCF between 1x and 3, well, the biggest thing I can divide into both of those is just a 1. Okay, so now that I have that, you can go through and check and make sure that your sides multiply to your insides. But then this will be a factor, and this is a factor. So I would have my final answer would be x plus 3 and 2x plus 1. Okay, let's try that again on number 10. Again, if you want to try, before you even do anything else, if you want to go ahead and fill in your box with what you know. So this first term, the squared term, goes up in the top left. Your no x's goes in the bottom left. Bottom right, sorry. And then you're just going to put 2 x's in there. They're just stuck in there. Then we're going to go ahead and name our ABC. So my A, the number in front of x squared is 3. My B, remember there's a ninja 1 here. The number in front of the regular x is -1. And then my C is -2. I'm going to go ahead and draw my T. Remember, A times C goes in the top. So we have 3 times -2. That gets me -6. I can change it a little bit. Okay, so -6, things that multiply to give me -6. So I have 1 and -6. Don't forget your negative. I have -1 and +6. I have 2 and -3 and -2 and +3. It's really important to get your negative signs in here because remember, we need these to add to the middle term. So we need it to add to be B, which is -1. So if I add these up, that gets me -5. That's not what I want. If I add these two up, that gets me +5. Again, not what I want. If I add 2 and -3, oh good, that gets me -1. This one must give you +1. So as soon as you find your two factors, circle them. This guy's going to go in front of 1x, so +2 goes in front of 1x, and -3 goes in front of the other x. Now you can play the GCF game. So we have 3x squared and 2x, common factors x, -3x and -2. Remember, they both have a minus, so we're going to put a minus. The biggest number that divides into both of them is just 1. 3x squared and -3x, so 3 and an x. And finally 2x and -2. Well, they don't both have a negative, so we're just going to take out +2. So my two factors that would multiply to get me this expression would be x minus 1 and 3x plus 2. Okay, now some of these are nice. When they give you multiple choice questions, you can go ahead and try to factor this x squared plus 9x plus 18, where you would name your A as 1, your B is 9, your C is 18. So you'd be looking for those factors of 18 times 1 that add up to 9. Okay, that's a perfectly legitimate way to do it. We also talked before where you could take your answer choices and multiply your answer choices together in order to get that top term and see which one gives you that answer. Okay, so let's grab that handy dandy calculator. So what you can do here for a shortcut, well, I lost my calculator. Okay, so for your calculator shortcut, what you're going to do is you're going to put your question, whatever you're trying to factor, in y1. So if I go to my calculator, I'm going to go to y equals, and I'm going to type in this thing right here. So I'm going to type in x squared plus 9x plus 18. Okay, now what I'm going to do is it's going to be a kind of guess and check thing. You're going to put in each answer choice by putting it into y2. So this is a good one if you can figure out some that you could cross out. Like for instance, number or letter A looks a little bit different. I'm not really sure that it's this one. So maybe I'm going to start looking at letter B or letter C or letter D. Okay, so what I'm going to try to do here, I'll start at D just for posterity's sake. I'm going to plug in letter D. So my parentheses are above my 8 and my 9. So I have x minus 6, and then I have times x plus 3. Type in it exactly like it looks on your screen or on your paper. Then I'm going to go to the table, so second graph. And what I want these two to do is to match up exactly. So for every x, it's the same y value. So if I look here, these don't match, these don't match, these don't match. I know it's not letter D. So if your graphs match, then you can use it. So if I go ahead and I put this into Again, I go into y equals, and I try answer choice C. Just change the sign to a negative. You know, I'm trying. And I go to the table, and I look. Those two match, but these two don't match. The rest of them don't match, so it can't be answer choice C. Again. So when I plug in B, again, we're just changing the signs in here. And I'm going to go look at the table. And if you notice, every single y value matches up. So my answer would be letter B because every single y was the same. Okay, so when I look in the table, everything is the same. Or you look at the graph and it matches up, you only see one graph in there. So this is a great way to check your work to see if it works, but you can only do this if they give you both factors and the answer choices. Okay, if they give you both of them. If they only give you one, then you're going to have to actually factor it. Otherwise, you can go through and you can say, do these two match? Okay, cool, then that's my answer choice. Again, look and see which one's different, so that way you can maybe not check that one first, and then go through your answer choices and figure out which one matches. Try number 12. Okay, he should have gotten answer choice B. That is the one that they match up exactly, and they would also multiply out to get you x squared minus x minus 12. Okay, so last but not least, let's look at 13. Again, we're going to name our A and our B and our C, because they didn't give me answer choices, so I can't use my calculator. So my A is 4, is the number in front of x squared. I don't have a B, I don't have an x, so I'm going to write 0 for my B. And then for my C, it's negative 9. Gonna go ahead and make my box. Fill in what I know. I know 4x squared, and I know negative 9 goes in this bottom corner. I'm gonna fill in an x, fill in an x. Now I'm gonna go ahead and make my t-chart. 4 times negative 9 goes on the top, AC goes in the top, and that gets me negative 36. So I'm looking for things that multiply to give me negative 36. So I have like 1 and negative 36. And I have like negative 1 and positive 36, 2 and 18. One of them has to be negative, my bad. Negative 2 and positive 18. Got 3 and negative 12, and vice versa. You can keep doing these. We got 4 and negative 9, and you can flip-flop them. We got 5 doesn't go in, 6 does go in. 6 times negative 6. And then they'd start repeating after that. So remember, I'm trying to add these up, and I want them to add to the B term, which is 0. So when I look at these, this isn't going to give me this if I add these two together. None of these are going to give me this. In fact, if I go down here, this gives me negative 5. No, 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 no. Oh, but if I add a number and its opposite, or the negative, that gets me 0. So when you're looking at these with no B, see if you can figure out what this square is. So I know one of my x's has to be positive 6x, one of my x's has to be negative 6x. Then I can play my GCF game. So I have 4x and 6x, that's 2, and then an x in there. I have negative 6 and negative 9, that gets me negative 6 and 9 is 3. 4x and 6x is 2x again. Positive 6x and negative 9 would just be positive 3 because they're not both positive or negative. So I'd have 2x minus 3 and 2x plus 3 would be my two factors that multiply to give me that. And you can add these up and see that 6x plus negative 6x goes away and you're just left with your two final terms. Okay, go ahead and try number 14. Pause the video, try 14. You should have gotten x minus 8 times x plus 8. There is a shortcut here. If you can figure it out, maybe that'll help you. It only works for the binomial terms. And so finally, your assignment tonight is numbers 1 through 12, I believe. Yep. Use your shortcut where applicable, and if you need help, remember, go find another math teacher who has tutoring this afternoon or in the morning. Good luck. You have a quiz Friday.